Welcome to the Wealthy in Pajamas podcast, where it's not all about the money, but it's not about the money. I'm your host, Sonya, the wealth expansion coach, here to help creatives find their real version of wealth, build profitable businesses, and be happy, healthy humans. Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode. I'm really excited to introduce you to Alexis Frank. Alexis, thank you so much for being here.
I am so excited for this episode. I have to say, when I realized the name of the podcast was Wealthy in Pajamas and we were talking about this, I was like, this is literally a dream. I'm living in a manifesting moment right now. And so, yes, I'm highly enjoying this.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Yeah, what's better than putting on your pajamas to work?
There's literally nothing. And I actually messaged my coach before this. I was like, I have always dreamed of running my mouth and pajamas being my work uniform. And I'm like, and I'm sitting down on a Friday morning getting to do both of those things in the same place. It just doesn't get any better than this.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having this podcast.
You're so welcome. Dream for me as well. So I will read your bio so people can get to know you a little bit, because I think you're really someone to know. And I think that my audience is really going to appreciate a lot of what you have to say. So for those of you that are new to Alexis, she is a no-nonsense coach and strategist for bold, established women entrepreneurs who are ready to break free from the constraints of obligation and step fully into their power. Alexis specializes in helping eldest daughter entrepreneurs ditch the surface level act, dive deep into their purpose, and build businesses that reflect their unapologetic truth. Woo, we love it. And when she's not challenging her clients to choose themselves, Alexis is busy being a mom to 3 kids and the proud wife of a Marine. She's mastered the art of balancing ambition and family, showcasing that success doesn't have to come at the cost of authenticity or a fulfilling life.
Wow.
Claps all around. We love it.
It's a good bio.
Pretty impressive. So tell us, how did you end up here? Because now you are doing both business and life coaching, right? And how did you get here? What was your journey?
Yeah, so I was in for the longest time, every single avenue that I stepped into, like when I was a teenager working in retail, and then when I was in the military, I was like, I like this. But there was something that every single day I'd go to work and I'm like, this can't be it. This 40 hours a week, dealing with people I don't want to deal with. There has to be another way. I could not do it. I can't do it. And so it's just been a bunch of trial and error over and over and over again, stepping into corporate thinking, okay, I'm going to get my big girl job. Maybe I'll just be the CEO of one of these big conglomerates. And I'm like, you're going to have to wait 30 years for that. And I was like, nobody listens to me here. Nobody actually cares about what's going on. I'm doing the best work that I can. And people are literally like, I want to put out this fire. And I'm like, how about we prevent the fire? And they're like, actually, no. And I just got sick of it. And I was like, I think it's time for me to start my own business. And it was between that and trying to go to work for large consulting firms like McKinsey. And I was like, I think that my skills would really be valued there. But I could not get an interview. And I had a mentor who worked at McKinsey who was right there. And she was like, I'm putting your resume in, da 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 da. I could not get an interview. I could not get an email back. I could not get my foot in the door at least 3 times. And I was like, I don't think this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to start the business. And I think, as with most people, I started off the business not knowing like exactly who I wanted to help or what I wanted to do. It was very much like, I'm amazing. I can help everybody. And so then became the process of speaking to everybody, talking to everybody, being frustrated because nobody wants to hire you because they don't know what it is that you do. And they like you and you're inspiring and you're so amazing and I love your energy, but there was no payment. Right? And nobody was hiring me to actually fucking help them, right? Um, and so then came the process of, okay, well, I guess I need help. So let me hire my own set of coaches, because if I'm going to coach people, I need to be coachable. And realizing that even though I am the best thing since sliced bread, I still need help. I still need, direction. I still need clarity for that and the entire spiritual journey that goes with it. Because if anything is going to send you on a spiritual journey, it's entrepreneurship. So hard.
Yes,
So
so
hard.
hard.
So hard. And earlier last year, I was creating this mastermind space that seemed like it wanted to head towards healing. And then I was being challenged, like I normally am, to be more specific. And I was like, it's not just women. Who is this woman? Who is this embodiment? Like, what is her label? What is her title? And I'm driving down the road and I'm like, wait a minute. And I was like, it has to be the eldest daughter. And so I go back to all the women that I did like market research with. I was like, what is your birth order? And 80% of them were eldest daughters. And I was like, that's it. This is it. This is it. And I leaned into healing for a little while because that's the space that I was in during that time. But then I was like, this isn't moving people. People who are healing like to be healing. They like the attention that comes with their healing journey, but it doesn't actually make them move or step into the power it is that they know that they have because they're too knee deep in what it is they're going through right now. And so that's when I shifted into we are, as eldest daughters, these massive movers, these massive drivers behind so many life forces. We deserve to be paid well. We know that we have a bigger purpose than just tending to the needs of our families. We have a bigger purpose than just being the person everybody calls on. Why is your family the only one calling on you? And why are industry leaders not calling on you? Right? Because you are the shit. You are a big deal. And once I realized that I was also already reflecting that behavior, I was like, oh wait, I'm just calling in more of me. And so and then that's how we ended up here, where we are today.
Ooh, that is a whole word. And I feel like I totally relate, and I know a lot of people who will relate as well. And it's part of why, like, for me in my business, I'm like, let's do the healing alongside like the business growth. And like, let's do, like, let's do the inner and the outer at the same time, because I think that you're right. It's really powerful to do healing work, and it's really powerful to do business growth.
Yeah.
But when you combine them together, then you actually get the holistic like wealth and abundance and fulfillment and like, you know, life and work that you actually want to have.
Yeah. I mean, the two go hand in hand. Like the majority of the work that we do in my mastermind is somatic, right? Somatic breath work, meditation, EFT tapping, abundance mindset, hypnosis. Like we spend a ridiculous amount of time in the subconscious minds because if you know that you're supposed to be a big deal, but your subconscious mind hasn't caught up with that yet, you got to retrain her. But when you're just focused on, well, woe is me, I have all these limiting beliefs, sometimes that doesn't necessarily fuel where it is that you're trying to go. But
Mm.
if you're also just talking about strategy, you can have the best email strategy in the world. But if you don't feel bold enough to embody it, if you're like, I charge 20K for a program, but you don't feel bold enough and you don't feel empowered enough to talk about the program, then what good is the strategy? They have to go hand in hand. And I get really tired of seeing people just selling strategy, especially when they know that the amount of people that come into their programs don't need another strategy. They need subconscious work. And they don't tell them that. And that's another place that I'm here to disrupt industry standards because I'm like, you're not just going to keep preying on people who want to make money because it's so much deeper than that. And it gets to be so much more abundant than that. And money flows easily when the rest of this stuff is handled and taken care of.
Yes, I'm nodding along aggressively because everything, absolutely. So before I forget, let me ask you, what does wealth mean to you?
Mm. Wealth, to me, there's a direct correlation to freedom of choice.
Mm.
So I don't like how something's happening. I'm just making a choice to do something else, and I have the money to support it. Um, I've never idolized the Christian Louboutins and I can't walk in them heels. That's not wealth to me, okay? But I am a sneakerhead though. So like this morning, I bought myself a brand new pair of Air Force Ones that I wanted because I realized that if you buy in the kid sizes, you save like 20 bucks. And they have kid sizes that run the same as like women's sizes. That's for me, that's this new wealth identity of I have so much of the thing that I want, but it doesn't look a certain way. I can afford to fly Comfort Plus or business if I want to because that's available to me. I go when I please, I come when I please. My home base is this massive house in California that most people might find to be unaffordable, but it's comfortable for me. It's knowing that money fully supports me whenever I need it. I know that if I make a decision, money will show up to support that decision, but it's not all primed and prodded and perfectly aligned and makeup and like, I mean, the roots are showing today. There's not a single place to be found with the makeup. I was falling over the makeup aisle yesterday looking for comp makeup for my 8-year-old because I was like, what am I supposed to be doing? I don't know. Wealth is not what you think it is. It's what you want it to be for yourself and fully owning that and living in that and not trying to look like everybody else who has your or your older perception of wealth.
Beautiful. I love that. Yeah, as I like to say, your wealth looks just like you,
Mm, it's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love that.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved your answer. And oh, okay, there's something I was going to ask you as you're speaking. Oh yeah, okay. So here's one thing that I want to get get your perspective on. As you were starting your business, making money, how did your money relationship with yourself and with your family, right? Because you also talk a lot about narcissistic parents and the
Mhm.
dynamic that that can play in life and business. And I'm curious because I know that I had this fear for a long time that wasn't necessarily based on evidence of actual money interactions, but I had this fear that if I was making a lot of money,
Mm.
my family would somehow A, know about it, and B, take advantage of it and kind of have it be like, okay, well, now you're responsible for all these other things, all these new things, all these other things. And I think it plays into that, you know, eldest daughter syndrome, I will call it, of like being the responsible one, taking care of your family automatically, just being assumed that if you have something, it's available for your
Mm.
family to have access to.
Ugh.
How did your experience around that like play out?
I mean, I could write a whole book. And it's such a good question because it's still so relevant to like my journey. So like my mom grew up with terrible money mindset. You know, we were always scrimping and saving. She just didn't think that anything was available to her. From the second I joined the army when I was 17, she assumed that I had more money than her. And she always made it known, like, you make more money than me now at 19 than, I've ever made. And I'm like, yeah, but that was like a you choice. You're the one who chose to be a public school teacher. Like, what does that have to do with me? But then, like, I had a lot of money and so I wanted to share it with them. Like, let me be completely honest. When I was 20 years old and I was on active duty, I was making way more money than a 20-year-old should be making. Like, straight up irresponsibility. I loved that for me. I needed that era. But it was like every time I came home, every time I was home on the weekends, I was taking them out to eat or I was doing this and I just wanted to shower them with things. But then my mom always made me feel bad for wanting to have a lot of money. She'd be like, "Oh, you're getting these degrees that, just so that you can make a lot of money." And I'm like, "I'm sorry. What is wrong with that?" And she always seemed to sympathize with my brother who was in his starving artist era, which I don't think he's actually left yet. He's been there his whole life. And it was like, well, he's broke. And she would always make me feel bad because she'd be like, you give from your overflow. You don't give from your lack. Like if my brother had $5 and I needed four of them, he would give them to me. But if I had $5 and he needed $4, I'd be like, I'm sorry, I can't give that to you. Wait until I have 10. And she made me feel bad about wanting wealth and the way that I used my money because it wasn't always in direct benefit to her. So that was one side of the coin. Then we've got my father, who was just a classic narcissist, but also was like a deadbeat who's never around. And he only appeared when he needed something. And he usually always needed money. And that's why he has this laundry list of baby mamas, because when he stretched one out for whatever she could give, he needed to go find somebody else who would feed into whatever delusions it was he was peddling that day. And so I haven't seen him since before I got married. So I haven't seen him since 2012. He's never met any of my children. He's never met my husband. But then when I ran for Congress in 2017, he magically appeared again because he thought that if I won, my stature would somehow propel him into whatever it was he needed. And that if I was making good money working on the Capitol or whatever, then somehow him saying, well, I always knew my daughter was gonna, be a big deal, blah, 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 blah. And this was also before I knew that I had a sister with the same name as me that was 2 months younger than me. So when I think about it now, I'm like, how did you even know which Alexis you were talking to? Which one was supposed to be the good one, right? Like, my God, sir, how'd you know?
Yeah.
So all of that, all of that spiraled into me and into how I viewed money, how I viewed safety, because I was so worried that if I made a lot of money, my father was going to try and contact me again. My mother has literally looked me in the eye and said, I know one day you're going to buy me a house. And I'm like, whose responsibility is that? That's not mine. And it was
Mm-hmm.
like, so subconsciously, I was pushing away money because I didn't want anybody to come and take it from me because they felt like it was theirs.
Yeah.
And I had to deal with that very early, very early. Because I would still consider myself to be a baby business owner. I mean, I'm only going into year 3. And it's like I had to deal with that so early because I was like, I don't like how I view money. I don't like being afraid of it because I'm so worried somebody's going to tell me what to do with it. What is mine?
Yeah. Oh, um, there are so many little juicy bits that you dropped in there, but I'm gonna try and keep us on track. But like, I think that you do need to write a book because there's many stories. There's many
It's in
stories.
the works. I have
Yeah.
2 chapters written already. The book will be written this year. I guess I need
Perfect.
to include the money mindset part. Thank you for
Yeah.
that.
There you go. I love it. Yeah. I think thank you for sharing all that though, because our relationships with ourselves and with money and with wealth are so dynamic and complex and so deeply rooted in how we were raised. And I think it's often shocking to people who start businesses who are like, I didn't even know what mindset was. I didn't even know what money mindset was. And they're battling all these things that they don't even realize are an issue, that are already existing and living in them. And I think that like I always had this like fantasy of like, well, if I just didn't have any family, and like this is not hating on my family. My family is very loving and supportive,
Yeah.
but I had this like fantasy of like, well, other people who are having these big successful businesses must not have close family. Like in my brain, I was like, they're on their own. They live separately. They're not in contact. Like somehow
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was like almost romanticized that like not having family support in some way because I was like, oh, that must mean they don't have kind of all these issues, right? They can just do as they wish. They can just take care of themselves. They can, right? And it's that like ingrained mindset and responsibility and obligation. And
yeah.
I recognize not everyone feels that way, right? And it's
Yeah.
so helpful when you're able to, I don't know if like you went down this kind of rabbit hole of listening to other people's money stories, right? And how they feel about money and being generous. And like we do see so many stories of, the uber wealthy, the celebrities being like, I couldn't wait to buy my mom a home, right?
Yeah.
Like I couldn't wait to like buy my, whoever a car, right? And when you feel obligated to do that, it's very different than just wanting to do it, right?
Yeah. It drags all the fun out of it. And it's annoying because when you have that narcissistic addition to it, it makes you feel like you're this selfish person when you're not.
Mm.
And it's annoying because it's like I always want to give so much of what I have. Like I want to be able to travel and take my friends with me, and if they can't afford it, I really don't care because they're coming because I'm going to pay for it. But it's like when you put that expectation on me, well, I don't want to do it anymore. And it's like with my in-laws, they're amazing. They expect absolutely nothing of me. And because of that, I'm like, you guys live in Vegas right now. I don't like that. You're too far away. I need you closer. And so now I'm over here like, I need to get them back here. So I need to make the money so that I can get them back here because this is what I want to do. And I don't feel obligated to do it. Just like tiny things like my mom would offer to watch my kids for a weekend and she would paint it like, oh, well, you and your husband need like a break. So I'll watch them so that you guys can have a break. But then she would make this entire list of things that she wanted to take the kids to do during that weekend. And then she'd be like, well, they're your kids, so you need to pay for it. And I'm like, they could stay at the house or things like, and I'm like, I don't understand why she would expect that. But then like we just went on an 11-day vacation this year in January. And I can't believe it's the last day of
Oh,
January.
January.
And I'm like, I did an entire 11-day vacation this month and it's still January. And that vacation feels like it was ages ago. But my in-laws came, they stayed the whole time. They don't require me to have certain things. You know, we bought this house with the bedroom, the guest bedroom being downstairs on purpose because I was like, they're older. I, but I wanted to do that, right? I wanted to do that. But I asked them, like, what do you want us to have in the house? They're like, we buy our own stuff. We can take care of ourselves. So they come here, they drive all the way here. Then they spend hours in Costco getting all the things that they need. They take my kids to Target and get them whatever they want. And there's no expectation on me to perform. And I look at my husband like, is this how you grew up? Is this how it's supposed to be? Is this love? And when you take that, this hideous expectation that because I have money, I'm supposed to share it with you instead of allowing me to just blossom into the immaculate, super amazing, helpful person that I already am and letting money amplify that, you lose so much of that being that person because I'm going to cut you out. I'm not going to pull you closer because you're making me feel bad for making money and not sharing it with you.
Right? Yeah, it's so interesting. I think unless you're kind of in that dynamic with a parent in particular, it's hard to kind of understand like the complicated emotions that come with it of like, I want to be generous and help you, but you're making me contract. And then you feel like I don't know, maybe in lack or there's scarcity or there's like this weird, just it's a whole mess.
Yes.
Um, it's a
We can do a
whole
whole
mess.
episode just on that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but I would love to hear. So you work with people in a beautiful holistic way, right? You were listing out some of the kind of like tools and modalities you use. And I know one of them that you like to focus on is also human design,
Mm.
which I think is so cool and helpful for so many things. So how do you incorporate human design? Like, why is that an important piece as people are figuring out like who they are, what they're here for, and how to really build their versions of wealth?
Yeah. So human design is when I was going through like my self-discovery process, the woman who actually facilitates somatic breath work inside of my mastermind, she's like, have you ever heard of human design? And I was like, no. But naturally, I'm a one line now that I know that I'm a researcher. So I was like, what is this? I need to go down a rabbit hole. I love rabbit holes. Right. And so I'm like, I must. And she was like, I'm a projector. She's like, you should try this, da 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 da. I sat on a stool outside of the bathroom because my husband was in there and it was like in our old house and the kitchen. And I was like, Erin, I've just discovered the most amazing thing I've ever needed to know in my entire life. And I found it to be so validating. Everything that I thought was wrong with me was exactly who I was. And there wasn't anything wrong with me. And I knew from the moment that I discovered it, I was like, my mom is a generator. I'm like, she has to be. I didn't even ask her for any of her information. I was like, she has to be a generator. I'm like, because the way that she would shame me for always being so tired and not wanting to be out the house all the time and stuff like that, she never understood. And
Mm.
I was like, but I'm a projector and I just need rest. I
Yeah.
literally need rest. And little things like I thought that my friends liked to come to my house when I was younger, like a teenager, because they felt safe there in my home with my mom. No, they felt safe with me. And it was like I was starting to realize at that point that everything had to do with my penetrating aura as a projector would have. Everything had to do with how I see people before I even notice that I see them. My
Mm.
body, my mechanics, my, aura internal guidance system sees them and they're immediately drawn to it. And I'm like, this is incredible. And so people are always like, "Oh, I wish I had a blueprint for life, or I wish I knew how to handle this." And I'm like, "But actually you do." Actually, it's right here. And I've never met a single person who understands their human design who wasn't like, this just isn't me. Because
Yeah.
it's the most fulfilling system that has ever been out there. And I understand that it's a makeup of a bunch of other different ancient systems as well. But for me, as someone who likes things to be super simplified, I find this to be the most Barney style way of understanding who you are. And in my program, you absolutely must know your human design. When you're in my higher level premium programs, we do a full reading, full send, all of your gates, all of your centers, undefined, defined. Like for me, like right now on my wall, I have my gene keys, I have my numerology, I have everything where I can see it. And I stare at it every morning to make sure I'm aligning. And right here is my human design. It's like 1-3, self-projected projector. When I always used to call my friends and I'd be like, sometimes I just need to talk. Like, I just need to talk. I don't need you to say anything. I just need to talk. And then when I found human design and they're like, you're self projected, I was like, I don't know what that means. And then I read and it's like, you have to talk to get clarity. I was like, but that's always been me. But that's always been me. And I will not coach you if you are not open to understanding this about yourself. It is a must in my program. You drop that in. I have a document where I can see all of your centers, all of your undefineds, everything. So when I know what you're struggling with, I know how to guide you in a way that is unique to you because I'm not going to sit here and give you some cookie cutter advice. Like, for example, I've got one client, she's here to, and we used her numerology for this, is to move people with her works of poetry and with her speaking. But she has an undefined throat. And so it's different for me because I have a defined throat. So when people say, like for marketing, they'll be like, use the words that your audience is using. What are they saying? And you need to mimic that back to them. That does not work for me as a defined throat. I'm here to say my own shit. I have to run my own mouth and say what I need to say, but that's not the same for her. And I'm like, it will help you to kind of parrot what some people are going through that you've heard them. That will help you be seen more. I'm not going to coach her the same way, but understanding those differences between us, that is how I can help her step fully into herself and her understanding. It also helps me when I get coaches to be like, listen, do not tell me this because I'm not going to listen to you because it's not how it fucking works.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I love what you first said about everything you thought was wrong with you was actually exactly right. And you just really need to, this is why I think it's so powerful to be a business owner because you really get to customize so
Mhm.
much of your life and your work. And like, I think the world would be better if everyone got to customize everything for themselves. But it's so true. It's like I love human design. I also have a whiteboard with like all of my keywords and gifts and things that I have taken out from my Gene Keys and human design reading. So I have like all my keywords, what I'm here for. I love that, like having the visual there because you do need to be reminded sometimes, right? Because there's a lot of outside noise and I think sometimes we can just kind of forget, like, oh, yeah, I actually am exactly on point with myself. And it might not always be logical or make sense to other people. But I think, like you're saying, feeling like, okay, I have a blueprint, I have something to refer to that affirms what I already know to be true. is just so helpful. And you're like, why am I doing it like this? Oh, wait, yes, that's exactly how I'm supposed to do it.
Yeah, it really it pushes you so far. And when I added the gene keys aspect into it, it's like so my first gene key is what your life's work is. And my life's work is to take full responsibility for the effect my aura has on people. And it's like that's so simple. It's like I simply exist and people see what's possible for them. And I'm like, is that all that it is? Like, is this how cool it gets to be? And I didn't understand that at first. So like in one of the coaching programs I'm in, I ask a lot of questions because I'm learning and I'm growing and I'm sharing. And apparently one of the other people inside the program messaged our coach off to the side and was like, Alexis asks a lot of questions. Like she felt uncomfortable because I asked a lot of questions. And my coach was like, is she asking a lot of questions or is she showing you that you're not asking enough? Are you not taking up the amount of space that she feels comfortable taking up? And I was like, oh, damn. That is literally, I call it the aura at work. And it's like, that's literally all I have to do is I exist in bigness and people see, wow, that could be available to me. And then they ask me how I do it and I teach them and I help them and I show them how to embody that and I give them the confidence to embody them. And I'm like, this is how simple it gets to be. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. And it feels really good to be able to implement that. And I literally was tapping on it this morning. I was like, how are you taking responsibility for how you affect people? Also knowing that how I affect people has nothing to do with me and has everything to do with themselves and what they think is available to them or what they thought they couldn't have. And I'm just simply existing in this big space. And it's like I get to take up all the space because the more space I take up, the more people see what they can have. And then the more people will pay me to have it.
That's such a good example, though, of like living and working exactly on purpose.
Exactly. And reminding yourself that as humans, we have tended to overcomplicate literally every little thing and bringing it back down to the basic of I exist simply so that other people can see what it means to live well.
Mm.
And I don't have to do anything else. I'm not here to work the projector. Work, that's gross. I guide the worker bees. And it's like, I couldn't imagine working, but these people who want to work, I help them find themselves. I help them find each other. And knowing that that is my purpose and feeling so good about it, knowing that I get to make an abundant living doing it, it just everything that I worried about in my 20s is completely washed away because I get to be this person having full permission from the literal universe and from my DNA that this is what I get to be and who I get to be and what I get to do.
Oh, I love that. I think maybe that's the perfect note to end on, and everyone can just soak that in. Do as Alexis does. Take in all of that, purpose, alignment, confidence, wisdom, living on purpose. Beautiful. Okay, so tell everyone where they can find you on the interwebs, what you have going on, how can they connect and get more of your wisdom.
Yeah, so I'm big on Instagram. I love Instagram mostly because I get to run my mouth and do an insane amount of twerking in places that just make me feel good. I'm also on Threads, running my mouth twice as much over there on that platform. And you can find me there at A Frank Life Coach. There's two main ways that I work with women, particularly eldest daughter entrepreneurs. And the first is in my membership called Audacity. And this is for my baby entrepreneurs who want to start the process of becoming known in their industry, being the one that people call. And they've got their cutesy little funnels and they've got their content creation, but it's like, I'm ready to make more. I'm ready to be a bigger deal. I'm ready to be seen. And then I have the Ruthless Pursuit of Self Mastermind, which is for my girlies who have been in this game for at least 3 to 5 years. They know how to make the money. They know how to show people what it is and how to create a business that they love. They've created a business that they love, but their next level is now being world renowned. Okay. It's like, now I'm ready to call in the book deals. Now I'm ready to call in the speaking engagements. Now I'm ready for people to actually hear what I have to say, not just the strategy it is that I have to sell. And I'm ready to fully embody being that girl. I'm ready to fully embody being the only choice that people call when they need an expert in my particular field. They're ready to stop idolizing Mel Robbins and they're ready to be Mel Robbins. And those are the two ways that I work with women. And then obviously my one-on-one, because it's like, oh, you need all this projector power? I got you. Don't worry about it. We'll talk way more.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all that. Thank you for being here and sharing your story. There's just so much good stuff that we got into, and maybe we'll have to do a part 2 to get into more of it because, yeah, I just love the conversation and I appreciate you out there supporting all the eldest daughters. We need the support, we need the help. And it's so nice to have someone who really understands and can hold space for your bigness, all of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I think it's really important as an end note to know that if you question who you are today, know that there is an infinite amount of guidance that's available to bring you back home. Every answer that you've ever needed, you can always find within yourself. You are a big deal. You are amazing. People haven't always looked to you because you were nobody. They look to you because you are somebody and you are the one with the answer it is that they need. And if you have the courage to embody her today, you have so much more available to you, but you are seen and you are heard and you are loved exactly as you are now, and exactly for the woman that you were put on this earth, in this earthly plane to be. And I'm excited that you exist.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Alexis. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We will see you next time.
Thank you.
Hey all, thank you so much for tuning in today. It would mean the world to me if you could subscribe, share, and leave a review so more people can learn about this work and access their true wealth. And if you'd like to continue your wealth work, please pop onto my email list so you can choose your own wealth adventure, whether that's applying for one-to-one coaching, accessing my DIY content, or staying tuned for upcoming wealth boosting programs. You can find all that at the following link, bit.ly/wealthypjs, PJS, bit.ly/wealthypjs. Join me there and let's get wealthy.